Hello folks, it is I, Trevor from Media Mementos, and boy do I have a story for you today. In the comments of the last video, people were asking me, what's up with that geology teacher? How bad is she really? The answer was very bad. She was an interesting woman. Let's call her Miss Frabblehaus. It makes sense if you saw her. She was basically as big round as she was tall, had Snape-like long greasy black hair, and these giant glasses that took up half of her face. Like I said, she was the geology teacher, but she was more than that to the school. She was also its biggest fan. All the things that they did, all their crazy practices, and the ways that they'd twist the Christian doctrine, she was majorly in favor of that. She was a big fan. So much of a fan, in fact, that she'd kind of drive the other teachers crazy. Not too many people know this, but my mom actually used to work for Moralton High. Not for very long, of course. She realized that they were a little, how do I put this, insane, so she decided to leave. But apparently during their staff meetings, Miss Frabblehaus would always stand up, completely derail the meeting, and just talk about her beliefs and things she doesn't like, things she does like. And basically, they would stay an hour late because they couldn't get her to stop. I don't know if it's because she's lonely or she has a lot of things to say, I don't know. But this kind of behavior did delve into her class. Before we begin with that though, I want to say that there actually were a couple things she did that I thought were pretty cool. Firstly, she had a tank of lizards in her class, which you don't usually see outside of the magic school bus, do you? I don't remember their names, so I couldn't really come up with fake ones or anything, and they're not really important to the story. And I think she was really the only teacher with class pets, including fish. The other cool thing she did was she introduced us to this thing that I don't really think it has anything to do with geology, but it's called magic mud. No, it's not the stuff from Coraline. It's basically this clay stuff where when you pick it up, it melts into this slimy liquid goo thing, but then as soon as you stop touching it, it hardens. Every time. I gotta make that again one of these days. I thought it was just a lot of fun. We all did. Just a bunch of high schoolers playing around with this mud stuff in a parking lot. If the superintendent saw us, his head would have exploded. That's the end of all the good stuff. Like I said, she was a profound loyalist to Moralton High, but she took it too far. Not only did she annoy all the teachers, but she annoyed all the students. She is notoriously easy to offend. And I did that one time in, not senior year, junior year. I didn't really interact with her much in senior year. But here's what happened. I mentioned in the last video that we had homecoming, right? And it was basically just a business conference where we all sat around at tables and talked about whatever's going on. But it had to be a school-appropriate subject. And what we would do during the week of homecoming is have these things called Spirit Days, over the course of Spirit Week. This isn't exclusive to Moralton High, most schools tend to do this. And there would be themes on each individual day, like America Day, or Class Color Day, School Color Day, whatever. I always liked to make a joke of these, partially because I didn't care about the school and what anyone said, and also I thought it was fun, just being kind of goofy and making a joke out of it. So what I did on America Day of that year was I had a big Canadian flag on my shirt. Funny, right? Yeah, most of the teachers sure seemed to think so. I got a lot of compliments and people just like clapping, wondering what crazy thing I'm gonna do next. Because by then I kind of had the reputation of being that guy who would always kind of misconstrue, accidentally of course, what Spirit Day was all about. But for some reason, Miss Frabblehaus didn't get the memo. She was my third period of that semester, and they would always take points for whoever participated in Spirit Week, and whichever grade got the most amount of points would win. I don't know, because we never won, so I don't really know what the prize was. And she looked at me and went like, "Are you a Canuck?" And me being the hockey fan, I'm like, "You mean like the Vancouver Canucks? They're not my team, but they're all right, I guess." She's like, no, are you Canadian? Because you're wearing the Canadian flag, that's not the American flag. And then it just immediately realized it's an r/ moment. I've never once before or since heard anyone call a Canadian a Canuck. So I'm like, no, it's a joke. And she's like, well, this is not about jokes. It's about showing your school spirit. And I'm like, yeah, my school spirit is a joke. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. I wish I said that though. Though that probably would have gotten me in trouble. But she was like, I'm going to count at this once, but you'd better not do this again. Check something off on a clipboard, Umbridge style, and then continues to go around the room checking who's doing what. And of course, I absolutely listened to what she had to say. I don't remember what the next theme day was, but I came back with another joke and she started complaining as soon as she saw me, like, this doesn't count at all. But I do know that not only did I participate this time, but it technically was what it was supposed to be. I think actually it was class color day that day, or school color day. And let's say our school colors, these weren't actually it, but they were purple and gold, right? So what I did was I came with another sign on my chest that said purple and gold, but they were in black text. And she refused to count that. She's like, you're making a mockery of what we're trying to do. This is supposed to raise school spirit and, like, I don't know what you're doing. Basically stuff like that. And then everyone started like arguing with her and she was like, no, I am not giving in. Basically no fun allowed. The same thing would happen if anyone dared talk about things like Pokemon, Harry Potter, the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party even, anything that wasn't like far right. Let's see, what else did she hate? Well, she hated a lot of things actually. Simpsons too, Family Guy, anything that wasn't like outright religious in nature. And even then, like if you mentioned someone on the Republican Party who was like kind of moderate, like Susan Collins or Mitt Romney, she'd also get mad. Unless you mention them in a derisive way, then it's okay. You could always tell which students she liked and which ones didn't, because the ones that she liked were always the ones who either one, sucked up to her or the school, or two, talked about the things she hated in a very negative way. Speaking of political stuff though, I'm trying not to state my political beliefs or anything here, like I've said many times. You don't want to learn politics or anything from me. You come here to escape that crap. But this story must be told. I was in her class during the 2015 primary season, right? This is where things were really starting to heat up. And don't forget, this is also the election where a lot of people looked on both sides and went, these are our choices? Oh, crap, we're screwed. And she realized that a lot of her students were feeling this way, and she wanted to help. You know how she wanted to help? By telling us, I don't know how many of you are going to be 18 by the time that the primaries come around, but you really should vote for Ben Carson. And then she would give all these reasons why Ben Carson was amazing, and then she'd dump on all the rest of the Republicans and the Democrats. And by this point, Johnson and Stein hadn't really gotten into the zeitgeist of the political scene, so she couldn't rip on them. Though later, I did hear that she was trying to spread around that Gary Johnson was a communist so that people who were scared of Clinton and Trump wouldn't vote for him. Don't know why. Guess she's just really politically motivated when you're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to talk about that stuff and try to convince your students how to vote. Then there was the matter of her grading. Because she was considered to be one of the strongest members of the inner circle, not most liked, but strongest, she felt that she could get away with anything, and she could. And I know this because a lot of people, especially parents, had problems with the way she graded people, but she wouldn't do anything about it. Let me give you an example. Say we have a test in geology, and you say that igneous rock is formed from the lava of a volcano or something. And then she'd look at that and go, you said a volcano, but it's actually no, that's wrong. It's like one of those things that is on the Fairly Odd Parents. Crocker uses any little thing to give someone an F. She'd do that. Her class average was phenomenally low, and it was shrinking really, really quickly. And sure enough, whenever people would complain, she's like, well, you need to study harder. You need to get it perfectly right. And I'm not sure why she did this, but I have a theory. My theory is that Since she loved the school and everything it stood for and her perceived power, really I think it was honestly just seniority, and they wouldn't get rid of her because they couldn't have anybody else take her job and she's been there forever. But I think that what she wanted to do was basically hold everyone to a really high standard that she was in. If she was going to be this great authority figure that everyone looked up to and rallied behind in order to get their spiritual and, I guess, political guidance, then she's got to make sure that she is like rigid and makes only the best students pass, which means that only 2 out of our class of 24 got A's. Don't tell me how I know that. I may or may not have overheard her say that to one of the teachers. She's still there, by the way. I checked on their website a few weeks ago. Still there. I don't know why, aside from all those other reasons I just said. One thing I do have to note, though, is that a lot of these problem teachers that I'm going to be bringing up over the course of this series, they're gone. Totally gone. I'm never going to see them again. Well, of course not. I'm never going back to that school, and I don't even live in the same state. But they don't have that job anymore. My arch nemesis especially, who we'll talk about in a few episodes. I'm sure you're going to love that one. She's gone. Frabblehaus is not. Which means that all the kids that come through the doors of Moralton High, they're going to have to continue to face her again and again and again. If I'm being honest, and I've thought long and hard about who I could compare her to, because I'm going to try to compare as many teachers as possible to characters in Moral Orel, to kind of help connect this thing back to Moral Orel a little bit. She's basically Miss Censor-Doll, offended by everything, extremely politically active, has a very high opinion of herself, and basically views herself as the matriarch of everything she sees. That was Frabblehaus. And I have a very, very uninformed and totally random guess that I don't think she's changed very much as time's gone on. If she was this way 10 years ago when my mom was working for them, and then, 6 years ago or something? Actually, no, Mom worked way further than that. I think it was like 15 years ago, now that I think of it. So 15 years back then, she was still the same. And then when I went to high school, she was the same. She's not going to change. And I wish everyone luck. Everyone who's going to be in her class, just make sure that you are as far right as possible. Make sure that you hate Pokemon and Harry Potter, and that you absolutely adore everything that the school is doing, and you'll be just fine. If not, well, at least there's going to be some other good teachers for you to rally behind and maybe ask for protection from. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. I'll see you guys next time where we talk about, I don't really know how to describe it, some of the nastier things, I guess. The hypocrisy. Yeah, that's a good thing. Hypocrisy. There are a lot of cases, let's just say, or incidents would be, I guess, the more accessible term, where these teachers would go against their own really insane teachings or even just the basic Christian teachings that every Christian can agree to, and did terrible, terrible, terrible things. Get ready, folks. We're getting into the deep stuff next time. It's gonna hurt.